being not just able, but willing to share your authentic voices because they need to be heard and we need to tell these stories in community, to build community. And we've got some amazing stories tonight to share. Um, if you can, please donate to support this program. We are going to continue our work together as a group, as a warrior unit, and hopefully have more readings during the year. So we need your support.
How do we donate?
Online on, hello, at estllosangeles.org. And that's all I have to say right now, right? How long have we been doing the veterans events?
How many years?
Yeah,
Are we going on 10 years?
close,
Wow.
about 10 years.
Wow.
I would say, you know what? Hold on, 2017.
Okay.
So, yes,
Years.
my math says 10.
Feels like that.
We're recording this tonight and we will do some edits of these presentations and have them posted online for you all to view. So without any further ado, we're going to start with Nicholas Cormier III.
Footsteps. Saigon, circa 1970. Dad's there. I'm with him, looking through his eyes, light years away from Louisiana, stationed in a hotel occupied by Uncle Sam's children. Which one? Dad didn't say, only left to speculate. Nights are lonely. Vietnam changes at night. Viet Cong are nocturnal. Their turf, their country, theirs to defend. Doing a hell of a job of it too. Taking Dad more than half my life to tell me this story. About war, time in Saigon. Battle seems more against himself. Belief in Big Brother's beliefs. Faith, perhaps misplaced. Sitting ducks, getting picked off. Questions not if a BC can kill an American GI. It's more of when. Losing the war. Death can come at any time. Dad's words, not mine. How Dad got here. It's a funny story. Played football in New Iberia, small town in Acadiana, bayou country. Spirit of poverty hangs over it like a radioactive mushroom cloud from a nuclear blast. It's still there today. Excellence at running back produced an opportunity for Dad to play college football. All he had to do was get on that bus. Jim Daddy, Dad's dad, footed the bill for travel. Not an easy feat. Raised 7 kids on his own. Worked on the railroad. Never knew my grandmother. Met her maker when Dad was young. Same age I was with Sugar, my other grandmother. Only one I knew. One that means everything to me. Devastated. Same way Dad must have been. Jim Daddy gave Dad more than a month's wages to get on the bus. $150. That's $1,669.98 today. First child headed to college. Pride of the litter. Night before Dad left. Went to say goodbye to friends. Poverty. New Iberia's decay. Smell of burnt molasses from sugar refineries. Stuff had money in his pocket. And he tied one on. And I'm with Dad as he stumbles down a dirt road. He rocks back and forth, and his footprints sculpt in gravel. He ponders the loss of his mother, responsibility to his sisters and brothers. He's got broad shoulders, can carry it. Same way he carries that ball into the end zone. Next morning, wakes up, is ready to go. He can't remember how he got home. He reaches into his pocket. And the money's gone. He joined the army the same day. Hotel walls closing in. Attack can come from any place. Price of sacrifice is not necessarily your life. It's that peace so many back home feel before they close their eyes at night. Peace Dad fights for. Same fight he passed on to me. Oldest brother has it too. Fought for that peace in the Persian Gulf, 1990 to 1991. Sacrificed his own, stolen by a sky that rained Scud missiles. Chemical warfare, peace be gone. Same way Dad lost his back in that hotel room. Bomb can come at any time. Or a plainclothes bully on an evening stroll. Kind of walk he's about to take tonight. One he's taken many nights. Each step is like walking through a minefield. And he's floating on a magic carpet stitched together by my mother's prayers. I can hear Dad's stomach growl. He needs to eat. He has to leave this hotel room. I slip into the night. It's crowded streets. Bullet in the chamber. Spins the barrel. Wonders where it'll land. Weapons on the table. Doesn't grab it. Why? Can die at any time. Hotel room door closes behind. Dad glides through the city. Unarmed, unafraid, undeterred. Peace regained. An American GI that refuses to die. Each step I take on Dad's journey through Saigon brings me back to my youth. Brick house on Willow Bend Drive. Mother's there, along with my older brother. Youngest is there. He's 3. Brand new record player glistens from a shelf. Michael Jackson's Thriller is on it. Dad's home for a change. We're together, whole family. Rarity in those days. Click-clack roar of a film projector fills the room like an indoor lawnmower. Black and white images bounce on the wall. Postcards from Vietnam, world away. At least that's what I think. Dad's in uniform. Smile from ear to ear. He's giving orders. Saw that Robert Duvall glow years before seeing Francis's film. Dad had it first. Beacon of service. Passed it on to me. Joined the military 3 years after my big brother got back from Kuwait. Dad's only advice? Go Air Force. Most of my wars fought in the streets. Fought for peace from behind a radar scope. Giving directions to a stealth bomber. Lost my own a day later after seeing the damage our noble anvil caused Kosovo. Scars of war define my family's distance. Each of us stationed on a remote island. Dad in Texas, older brother on the East Coast. Province, Los Angeles for me. Toughest assignment of all. Walk through fire, homelessness, incarceration, spewed venom, richest layers, NLP programming, cancer. And now, lost my family. I got my peace. Same way Dad got his. Laid down my weapon. Guided by grace. Service-connected disabilities unite us. Dad's footsteps cover the globe. Germany, Korea, Thailand, Vietnam, Panama, many more too. Never told Brother Brad and I that we had to serve. Didn't need to. Showed us great esteem comes to men dedicated to service. In the 1950s, only way a man of a certain color could guarantee our country solidified our bloodline was to be willing to die. Outside of playing ball. Same holds true today. Mostly anyway. Ran about as far from Dad's footsteps as I could. Only to look down and find I'm standing in them.
Hey. Hi.
Terry Fallon, everybody.
So, this is the strangest time in history that I have ever read at a Veterans event. The Pentagon has broadcast that women are not welcome. I've had some young family members say, have you ever seen anything like this before? Maybe. I've been reflecting on how we got here, and it occurred to me that being of a certain age, I have witnessed a lot of history. I was in grade school during the Civil Rights Movement, the Women's Liberation Movement, and the Vietnam War protests. I saw people marching, and I experienced in my life the changes they marched for. It was a thrilling time and also very confusing. When my mother encouraged me to go into the National Guard, I thought, okay. I didn't think in terms of male, female. I just thought about push-ups. I joined the Army in 1978. I didn't know that the Women's Army Corps had just disbanded. I didn't know that the Army was desperate for recruits because of the Vietnam War and the end of the draft. I didn't know that I was standing in a unique time in history and that I would be one of the very first women to train with men in the first co-ed training companies. I was 17 years old. I didn't know much. I served for 27 years, and after retiring, I joined a veterans writing group, and we wrote to build understanding between veterans and our civilian audiences. I was usually the only woman reading, and I wanted to describe my experience as a woman in the military. Tricky. If I explain it straight out, I could be perceived as whining, complaining, bitching, or even ranting. If I explain it straight out, I might cry. So I challenged myself as a writer to see if I could write in a fun way and get the point across. And this is an example of that writing. What I'm reading is an excerpt from an essay that I wrote titled, "Are You a Slut or Lesbian?" Perception is everything. That was perhaps the most important and hardest lesson I had learned in my life. Another hard lesson is it's nearly impossible to change someone or a collective someone, like an institution's perception. And so it was with being a female in the military. The perception is you are in the military because you are either a slut or B, a lesbian. The thinking goes like this. You are a lesbian because you have male tendencies which drew you to the military. You could exercise those tendencies while being surrounded by many other females with the same tendencies. You are able to share barracks filled with women, and you have the opportunity to boss men around. Oh, what a lesbian bonanza! Or you're a slut. Because you cannot get enough sex as a civilian, you entered the military where you are surrounded by unsuspecting men. You have plotted to prey upon these paragons of service who are, when deprived of military company, will fall gratefully to your trap because, well, they just can't help themselves, what with all the strong maleness due to their patriotic service. And there you were in your sexy, shapeless uniform, using your female wiles upon them. You tramp. And so it was my entire military career. Now, mind you, it took me years to decode the perception, and as it is with almost every female in the military, I thought it was my job to prove myself worthy of being in the military. I had to earn being accepted. I had to prove that I was strong enough, intelligent enough, and that I had what it takes to be a soldier, in spite of the fact that I had too much in the boob department and I was missing the holy grail of soldier anatomy. A penis. In basic, we were seen as an anomaly, an unwelcome presence being shoved down the throats of the men who resented our very existence. How dare we crash their all-male party? My slut trouble began in AIT when the leadership was AWOL. I was first hit on by a first lieutenant company commander of Alpha Company. I was in Bravo. Confused, I went back to my basic training company to ask my DI for advice. He was in the rec room and he promptly hit on me. No help there. So I graduated as fast as I could to return home. After my first drill with my National Guard company, my company commander dropped by my apartment, welcomed himself in, asked if I wanted to go on a date. And I was like, seriously? No. You're my company commander. Well, after that, I had more KP and guard duty than Gomer Pyle. During my early years, I was desperate for a solution to my slut problem. So I conducted a study of other females who had extracted themselves from slutdom, and I realized I had three options. One, cut my hair. I mean, cut it manly short, shape it high and tight. Two, act manly. Behave as though your whole purpose in the military is to be one of the guys. Be sure to bring your manly haircut and make jerk gestures while speaking loud and swearing. When executed well, this triggers the male's homophobic fears and you are safe. Gold. 3, the big key that unlocks the slutdom gates. Get married. Not quickly, not quietly, no. It must include a long engagement where you talk ad nauseum about your wonderful husband and, this is key, your wedding plans. I have observed this tactic, and man, it was like kryptonite. The males kept their distance. Impressive. Of course, I couldn't pull any of this off. I was doomed. My military experience became a circus of the absurd. I was hit on by so many men that today only a few distinguish themselves as truly memorable. I remained in a constant state of defense and disgust. But for everything, there is a strategy. And the strategy of the non-slut trait, when hit upon, is laugh it off in a way that does not offend the jerk, so that you have not made an enemy. Because as a female in the military, you don't need any more enemies. B, act as though you didn't realize he was hitting on you and exit as fast as you can. And C, tell him to go fuck himself. I took to liking the go fuck yourselves tactic so much that I became a bitch slut. A decade into my career, I was the unofficially crowned bitch slut, the last holdout who remained single and wasn't interested in hooking up. Then, around the age of 27, in spite of my non-hyphenated name, Ringless Finger, I was hit by a wave of, "Are you married?" I was asked so often, I began to think it was a conspired joke. Every wife I came into contact with, their faces would drop with disappointment when I curtly said no. Then they would look puzzled and ask, "Don't you want to be married?" And the bitch slut in me would reply, "No, I already have a boss." Or, "No, I'm not a big fan of divorce." Or my favorite, "Now, why buy the pig when all he wants is a little sausage?" Brazen wives would point blank ask me, "Are you a lesbian?" To which I would throw back my head and laugh and say, "No, unfortunately." At my Christmas party, my sisters asked first if I was married and then if I was a lesbian. And she answered very deadpan, "No, she just thinks women are far superior to men." Ah, perception is everything. So that was the piece of the piece. And way back when I enlisted, I didn't know much. Today, I might know something. For instance, I know it's not easy to be a woman in the military. Not because of the physical or the mental demands. It's hard because a lot of the men make it hard. I know the reason those men don't want women to be equal, because that means they are no longer perceived to be superior. I know there are women, soldiers, sailors, and Marines serving our nation right now who are in harm's way, and that no one should be tolerated who disrespects their service or tries to erase them or their proud legacy. I retired a long time ago, and I have taken great joy and pride in the accomplishments of my sister soldiers. We have witnessed what we all know. When they are not held back by stupid, misogynist rules, they soar. Every time a piece of the glass ceiling is broken, they have performed above and beyond. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, that these women cannot achieve. Full stop. Am I discouraged by what is happening today? Sure. But then I remember the marches of my childhood, and I remember they worked. And this year I have joined the new marches, and they are working. So now I call out to my sisters and brothers, fall in. Together we march. Thank you.
Well done, Terry. Thank you. You're up. Is he okay?
He's fine.
This is Cooper, everybody.
This is my dog Cooper.
Hi, Cooper.
Sit.
Good boy.
Sit. Okay, keep it safe.
Hello, everybody.
My name is Carlos Gonzalez. I served active duty in the Marines from 2013 to 2018. And I joined right out of high school because I had bad grades and poor judgment. So the Marine Corps recruiters picked me up really fast. At the time, I figured my only options, realistically, probably were to be homeless. So once I got to boot camp, I realized homelessness probably would have been more comfortable than boot camp. So the way boot camp is kind of set up is the beds that they give you are like bunk beds, they're racks. I got assigned the top bunk, and my rack mate Gordon got assigned the bottom bunk, the bottom rack. Now Gordon was from Shepherd, Texas, and he was the goofiest motherfucker I've ever met. First off, he was missing his two front teeth. So every time he smiled, he looked like a fucked up jack-o'-lantern. Secondly, he had severe undiagnosed ADHD and couldn't stand still for the life of him. Whenever we're in formation, he would rock back and forth constantly. He would rock in his sleep so much that the rack would shake sometimes at night. And thirdly, he would fart all the time. Like, I don't know, I understand what crawled up inside this man and died, but this man just stank all the time. But me and Gordon were tight. I mean, you have to be in boot camp. We understood each other from the beginning. In the mornings of boot camp, you have 2 minutes basically to completely unmake the racks, take off the sheets, take off the pillowcases, and then set it back straight. So Gordon and I had this system where I would hop down and I'd rip the bottom part of his sheets off, and he'd rip the top part off, and he would throw me the blanket and we'd catch it, and I would flip it open and flip it beneath, and then he would do the fold, and I'd run up to the side and do the 45-degree angle, the tuck, and then we both hop up on the top rack and do mine at the exact same time. And this is how we would make our racks for 13 weeks straight, the same way, every single morning. We would make those racks look tight. It was our job. We were like this big, useless, well-coordinated machine that could make beds really well. Graduating boot camp, Gordon and I ended up going our separate ways. Gordon got assigned to artillery, and I got assigned as MOS 0231, intelligence specialist, which was kind of bullshit for two reasons. One, because that's not the MOS that my recruiter told me I was going to get. And two, it's kind of an oxymoron to call a Marine intelligent. We're called jarheads for a reason. All jokes aside, now being out of the Marine Corps, I think a lot about what my contract all meant. All the work that I did, all the places that I traveled to, all the training that I did, going into the Marines was kind of like this long, grueling journey from boot camp to MCT to the schoolhouse to finally hitting the fleet. And the whole way, the older Marines, the old guard, are telling you about honor, courage, commitment, and saying gung ho and kill and hoorah. But when you get out of the Marine Corps, it's just this process of sign here, take this class, and then one day you're just driving off base with all your shit in the back of your car, and you're never going to be back on base again. And it's just kind of like we're on to the next obstacle. starting school, finding work, trying to pay rent, and it's weird because I feel like I never finished what I was supposed to finish when I was in the Marines. For most of my time as a junior Marine, I felt like the training and the exercises and the stupid PMEs were going to surmount to something that I was going to have to do, some glorious moment of valor. But looking back, all I really did was clean shit, got rained on, and crack jokes the whole way. My dad says that the Marines taught me discipline. Yeah, he should have seen the discipline I had knocking back shots of Jameson off of Camp Hansen. So it's difficult because every Veterans Day I feel a little uneasy, sometimes very hungover because the previous day is just but mostly uneasy, kind of all of feeling, a feeling of lacking. For the first year and a half of getting out of the Marines, I just kind of existed aimlessly because I didn't have a mission, and I felt like the last mission wasn't completed because I didn't have that moment of glory that I've been striving for. And it's hard because it makes you feel a little bit less than, because no Marine chooses what happens to them when they're a Marine. No service member chooses what happens to them while they're in service. But every service member gets out. So we're all kind of in this limbo space. I was feeling overweight because I wasn't exercising as much, but I was definitely eating as much as I did. I, was in a civilian body, but I still had the Marine Corps mindset trying to hold me to this standard that I was no longer living up to. So I felt gross. I felt like I was failing somehow. And there was one night where it's just the voices and the negativity got so strong that even drinking didn't help. So I somehow ended up calling Gordon, my RACM from boot camp. And he picked up at 3 a.m. Picked up this phone call. I hadn't seen him in 7 years. We picked it up right where we left off. He moved back to Shepherd, Texas. He got married. He had kids. He got new teeth. He was working towards being a manager for this video game store that he worked at and making life work, which is what stuck with me. I don't know if our time in service was supposed to really mean one thing. I don't know if we were supposed to do that one thing. But I do know for most of us, it doesn't really happen. It doesn't really end with a big climax like a movie, or it doesn't end like it does in the stories. We're just supposed to get out and move forward and just carry what we can from our time in service. Even if that means people not understanding you, even if that means people don't understand why Memorial Day is a hard day, or why we're starting college so late, or why we've been divorced. But if Gordon has taught me anything, it's that if he can figure out how to live happily, so can. And this is a piece I wrote for my first true stories 2 years ago, and a lot's happened between. I finished school. I definitely took my time, but I finished school. Thank you. I've agreed. I've moved. I've started a career, and I think with the perspective I have now, looking back at this piece, what I would kind of tell myself then is that yes, Gordon found his way, and I can find my way, but most times, actually, the way finds me. Sometimes a dog wanders into your yard, and then now you have a dog, and now you have a reason to get up in the morning, and you gotta take the dog out, you gotta brush teeth, you gotta take a shower now. Sometimes you get an email asking, we're looking for veterans to tell stories during a Veterans Day event. Sometimes you meet the right person, at the bar, who listens and supports you. So I would say that it's possible as long as we keep putting ourselves out there and keep showing up for ourselves. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you. So this is your fourth Christmas.
This is my third one.
Third
Yes.
veterans event.
Yes.
DC, you ready?
Yeah, it's gonna be easy.
I believe in you.
Fallen. 2 words. For the military, it means to fall in line, to fall in formation. To me, I see it as a mnemonic device, something verbal that triggers the offering condition of a voluntary physical response. And with that, I start with this. Boot camp was a motley crew of characters from a cross-section of the United States that I had absolutely nothing in common with. I arrived on day 1 on Yellow Footprint, anxious of the unknown. While most were able to find sleep that first night, I was not. I stayed awake, pondering to myself what I had done. An 18-year-old young man, 212 pounds, a white-appearing Mexican-American from Los Angeles County, who left a full-time job, a part-time job, and a 31-year-old girlfriend back in my hometown. This is a military story, so by tradition, her name is not Jody. I used to be athletic when I was young, spending time in drum circles and running through the fields with the chief's sons on the reservation, playing in Little League till 5th grade, then moving back to drums for 6th and 7th grade, flag football in 8th grade, and then the swim and debate teams in 10th grade. Had to leave both of those early though, due to me needing to get a job to support myself. I was in 10th grade, my 4th high school, living on a friend's couch. It was easier to survive back then. Fast forward a few years, and I find myself in Marine Corps boot camp at Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego. It started on a Tuesday that was 1,724 Tuesdays a week, as I found myself following in a tradition of my family. For me, this was a tradition that had lasted for 3 generations. It was the same traditional path to walk, but in this path, my path, was me choosing to walk the path of the United States Marine. A part of me didn't want to stay there in boot camp, though. A part of my heart was pulling me back to my support system, to my girlfriend, before reminding myself that my World War II Navy veteran grandmother would be more proud of my successes than my failures. So I kept on falling into formation and pushing forward. By the 3rd month of boot camp, I was doing well. My run time had improved by 33%, with my final PFT run time being 20 minutes flat for 3.5-mile run. I had gone from 212 pounds during my first weigh-in to 167 pounds by my last weigh-in, a loss of 45 pounds over 12 weeks. I felt lighter on my feet. So using a senior drill instructor from a different platoon as a pace setter, I ran to catch up to him. When I caught up, I would say, meet me, like a road runner, and pass him. He would then pass me, and we continued bounding like this till I passed the finish line. This remains my personal best run time until this day. But that night, I got sick. Our platoon was on the confidence course next. I was doing my best, as I always do. During one obstacle, however, I found myself climbing from one wooden platform to another wooden platform. No ladder, no rope, just a wooden platform above and below you, where you have to continue climbing using only your hands and foot grips to get yourself to that next level. I was doing my best, or so I thought. And then I fell. Losing my grip on the wood, I plummeted back first onto the platform below, forcing all the air out of my lungs and leaving my back and my rib cage in extreme pain. I could barely breathe. I was then ordered to complete the slide for life obstacle. I did my best, lost my grip again, and fell into the water below. My sickness got worse. I reported to medical the next morning. They ran some tests, couldn't figure out anything. So they issued me some nasal decongestant and sent me on my way. The next morning I woke up and discovered I could not breathe. The nasal passages had become sealed with hardened mucus, snot that had solidified throughout the freezing night, forcing me to breathe through my mouth so I can get to the head to unclog my nasal passages. My sickness got worse. Some evenings I produced so much mucus it was green. And if I sneezed, snot would come over my entire face beneath my nose. Other times I would cough, and a wad of mucus would come flying out of my throat, almost hitting the Marine recruit standing across the squad bay from me. Despite these ongoing and persistent symptoms that I had acquired, I was informed that pain is weakness leaving the body. So I fell in and continued on this path. When I got to Marine combat training at the School of Infantry, I was housed in an overflow squad bay. This is 2007. We were still active in overseas theaters of combat. They were pushing the numbers. There was a Marine in my overflow squad bay that had also been my platoon back in boot camp. Let's call him Mallard. Mallard was 17, only a year younger than myself, but very immature and impulsive for you. One day, his bag goes missing. He begins to get upset. I do my best to calm him down and reassure him that we will help him find his bag, because bags don't just get up and walk away. After I turn and begin to walk away to help him look for his bag, he hits me. Mallard takes the rifle butt of his M16A2 service rifle and hits me at the base of my skull. I fell forward in pain and in shock. I remember disarming him, confronting him after the hit, informing him that his action was not necessary and neither was his immaturity, that we would help him, but he would need to be patient. We found Mallard's bag shortly thereafter in another walkway between wall lockers. After I laid down and fell asleep, that hit to the back of my head, that is when the headaches and the numbness began, while the pain became worse. I arrived to Pensacola, Florida, to attend A school for my military occupational specialty, my MOS, 2631, Electronic Intelligence Intercept Operator / Analyst. There's so much to cover here, but I'm restricted on time. So remember these physical things as we move forward. Running at this point caused my shins to feel on fire. When medical imaging with contrasting dye, I had multiple bilateral stress fractures and shin splints, which placed me on light duty. They provided a cam walker for only one leg. Light duty physical training was not dictated by a physical therapist or nurse, but by a company commander that made it known that disliked what he perceived as broken Marines. With light duty exercises being something you would see as intensive training in other units. So because I was injured, I was perceived as broken, and thus not worth upskilling and promotion. While I thought I would be on the military career highway for 20 plus years, I found myself being forced off the military career highway a lot earlier than I would have hoped for or expected. With the discharge separation code that identified an unknown disability, they knew something was physically wrong, but they would not want to spend the time to find out all the trauma that had occurred in my body because of everything I had already been through throughout the training schools I had attended. This made transitioning back to the civilian world hard for me because military trainings and certifications don't transfer cleanly to the civilian side. In conjunction with the lifelong impacts and disabilities that one acquires over the duration of one's military service, regardless of the length of one's service. There is a lot that has happened this year since the story I told you last year. That will need to be a story I save for another time. Until then, let me end with this. To the veterans out there that know me and still question my service and family legacy, I get it. You're right. I didn't get killed in action overseas like my uncle did during the conflict in Vietnam. And I didn't get deployed because I was permanently injured before I could do so. You're right. I didn't serve 40 years or 20 years or even complete my first contract because I was permanently injured before I could do so. It wasn't my choice to get injured and become disabled. I would have loved to stay injury-free and physically fit in order to do my 20 years of federal employment time and get out. But sometimes the path you want to walk and the path you need to walk are not the same path. Life is a marathon. That's your path. Doesn't matter how fast or as slow as you go. As long as you never give up, while you move forward, living productively throughout this emotionally charged experience we call life.
Well said. Joe Luis. Welcome, Joe Luis Seville, everybody.
It's funny, the rain reminds me of nautical mornings as a Marine and also marching. Just want to say that before I get started, there was a time limit on this, and I totally blew past it. This is something I just started writing for the past couple of days. It's driven me by a number of different things, which I'm unfortunately sure you're going to hear about all of them. And yeah. Do you know what makes you, you? This question still rings out in my head. It was given to me by a man, a dramaturg by the name of Dominic Taylor in a grad school lecture. He asked it of all of us, and it was a way of basically us being able to find why we do art, our artistic process, and also perhaps our lives. And that it can be broken down by something that happened to each of us between the ages of 4 and 8. And I thought it was a little bullshit. What was it? Immediately, I thought of this memory of when I went to Disneyland when I was a newborn. Well, on the safari ride, when the animatronic hippos emerged from the murky, green, slimy water, my dad pulled me out to them. Not in like Michael Jackson way of dangling a baby from the balcony. It was more of a playful sacrifice. The Disney cast member called it out, and I don't know if it was stage fright or my own form of baby revenge, but I peed and it ran down his arms. The thing for tonight is fall in, and I have to say that I'm grateful that I didn't fall in then. It's more of a funny story, and it's not a true memory. For 2 years of grad school, I bring up Dominic Taylor in conversation, and I actively thought how he incepted that question into me. It wasn't until I remembered the incident that happened when I was 6 or 7 years old, where in the middle of the night, my Nana Nilla showed up in my bedroom and woke me from sleep. As a child, my Nana Nilla could envelop me in her arms that felt like physical sunshine. And there was the scent of tortillas with butter on them. and the striking aroma of a cold cream that she would laughter herself in that I cannot remember the name of. I can picture the ivory white container and the woman with this perfectly coiffed hair that my Nana Nella always tried to emulate but never achieved. At night in my bedroom, I realized that my grandmother had been beaten and that my grandpa was the one who did it. I realized all my arts is my impulse and obsession about a question. Am I loved? It manifests itself in this duality of my wanting to belong and to be more than just accepted or recognized. Yet, I'm distrustful of others, but still concerned for their safety as a means of looking out for my own, which also leads me to making something from nothing, which is totally spoken. The absolute worst perfect thing for someone who wants to join up with the Marines. I also think that this is a very American way of thinking. How do I prove that I deserve to be here? How much will I allow myself to be punished in order to be loved? It's a little bit much. One, joining the line. I can understand why some Latinos voted for Trump. I say this not as a punchline, but coming from a place of empathy. There is a whole mythos to success that absolutely meshes with our Latino cultural values. My parents are Chicano, not a country or a variant of being Latino like a Colombian, Salvadorian, or if you say you're Mexican, but it's an ideology, a cultural awakening born from the activism of the 60s and 70s. It was from the high school riots that they experienced the modes of taking part, like not eating grapes in solidarity with Cesar Chavez and all the farm workers out there in the fields. It was also participating in Labor Day parades, including my dad getting invited to join Tom Bradley, the mayor at the time, for a union breakfast held at the Hilton Hotel downtown in Los Angeles, but is no longer there. They moved as political animals through life, and I swim exactly the same way. My nanita, my mother's mother, she would get together with my tia, the mythic one who had communist lovers in Mexico and smoked cigars on the porch. And they would join and hold dinners at my nanita's house in San Fernando on Silas Street for Governor Brown, not Jerry, but his dad. They would raise money from janitors and secretaries and campesinos for his campaign. Politics runs really deep in the sangre inside of me from both sides. Yet, as a kid, my mom would fuss over me and ensure that I looked suavecito before I walked out the door to go the 7 blocks to Valley View Elementary School. She was a woman of the 70s with her macrame purse. She had a book club with my father where they shared books with their best friends from high school. The Stephen King novels that were very popular at the time. So why was she totally acting like when Anita always brought us brand new clothes at for Christmas from the J.C. Penney outlet mall, the store on the San Fernando Mall? I got used to being my nanita's mannequin for the various shirts and pants she'd try on me as I marched out of the dressing room until she saw the right look that made me look really macho, even though I could start a fire from the way that the silverware would rub against each other as I played soccer at school. My Nana Nella had the exact same obsession anytime he left the house. He had to look like he were going to church, even if it was just to get a big gulp. Can you imagine the pressure to dress like a goddamn school picture every single day. But I was a boy who didn't know that you can't wash grass stains out of Buster Brown pants. That's the unconscious trigger that Trump has his finger on. Of course, gold shoes strikes a chord with folks who are from birth are indoctrinated that looking good, wearing the trappings of success magically will endow you with that same property. This very impulse is really fucking deep in me too. As a Marine, I was a total diva when it came to my uniforms. Fast forward for me stepping out of the dressing room with my nanita to me posing like a runway model for a seamstress in the mirror, seeking the right tapering of a uniform shirt in order to highlight my push-up muscle, which I was working on every PT session. Every man's got a little lady in him, and sure as shit, I was pretty much a big Heidi Klum during Victoria's Secret heyday, just modeling to make sure that I got my khakis proper and my seat cover atop my head cocked in that way that my fellow Marines who were paratroopers said you had to have it cocked in order to make sure that everyone knew how much of a badass you were. I remember as a kid the pictures of my Tío Sendero dress blues. My dad's older brother, my Tío Javier, very stoic in his boot camp picture, wearing birth control glasses. The joke is evident in the clunky frames that ensure that no woman would ever look your way. This is also very much like the evil Queen's mirror in Snow White, where I didn't know that I was doomed to get the same pair. Luckily, I didn't have to wear it for my Marine Corps graduation dress blue picture. My Tío Fernando Barcinas married my mom's sister, and he was a staff sergeant who guided me towards junior ROTC and supported my military habit with those old Time Life books that you used to be able to get through the mail about the world wars. He gifted me with these commemorative prints of World War II aircraft, clean, artistic renditions of war machines I hung up on my wall next to the frame, Space Shuttle Columbia, and my Star Wars movie posters. My mom would look on this and she would scowl. While a Marine reservist, I was accepted into the platoon leaders class and got to attend officer candidate school. No shit, it was just like being in that Richard Gere Lewis Gossett Jr. movie, An Officer and a Gentleman. One of the highlights while I was there was the Marine shop. It's a modern store on the outside, but as soon as you go inside, there's this wood paneling like some bougie store from London's Soho district, or how you see in those movies. Little Devil Wears Prada. I'll go there. Officers have to buy their uniforms, so there is these sharp, emasculate displays that were like fetish wear from military junkies. But seriously, it was all about the sword. It's called the Marmaluke sword, and it goes back to the time that the Marines fucked up some pirates off the shores of Tripoli. And it's ivory and steel, and in the display, it fucking glowed and looked exactly like a lightsaber. That, for me, was the ultimate dressing the part, being the part, and accomplishing what I had fantasized since I was a child. I couldn't help myself and probably jinxed myself, but I used my stipend money from the OCS program, and I bought a pair of the uniform second lieutenant gold bars that I envisioned some version of a Deborah Winger actress pinning on me once I got my commission. I think that's probably why most of my romantic relationships fail, is I've never been able to express that type of moment that could bond me to a partner in the exact way that I needed someone to affirm that I would be loved and I would belong with them forever. I realize now that my dream of being a Marine, of being an officer, was created with my child's mind. My generation joined the Marines and joined the military, but our families had long lived like they were in the military here already. I thought I was the first to have to carry everything I owned in a sea bag across from base to base. But my dad's family and even my mom's would pack everything they owned into a truck, along with all their hermanos and hermanas, whatever uncles or aunts could help. Because when you pick for a living, you don't get a living wage. You only get to earn what you can produce in volume. As a 10-year-old, I had an entire army of all the G.I. Joes. I had all 3 movies worth of Star Wars figures. Yet my father, at the same age, had to be able to carry around whatever he deemed the most precious to take from state to state. They did this for over a decade. He often had to share his toy with his brothers, and even when that toy busted, he revered it. Because when you have nothing, the broken is a treasure. And worse than that is selling the lie of success, tricking others that they can be like you too. There is a mercy to military training. They will get in your face, openly question your manhood, challenge you to do more than what you thought you could, push you beyond discomfort, they'll fuck with your sleep, almost drown you, put you in life or death situations, but whatever they're looking for whatever it takes to basically break you down. But there is an honest intention that they believe that you will become something more than what you are. There is a method to the madness. And maybe it is an existential question, like a trickle in the corner, but it is definitely one that drives me. How much does someone have to struggle in order to belong, to be part of the group? At times, this has defined me, and worse is when I start asking how much I will sacrifice, I will put up with, or bend over backwards to learn the deeper answer to the question, am I loved? 2, holding the line. In my mind's eye, when I think of fall in, I always think of a formation. In order to acquaint you, whether it was as a flight commander for my junior ROTC unit, the California 782nd Squadron in high school, or moving a Marine Corps unit from the chow hall back to where we had the motor pool area so that we could clean Humvees and clean radios all day, or as an officer candidate on a drill field, leading drill, it always starts the same. All in! You hear shiny plastic shoes or spit shine polished jungle boots scurrying. Your right foot always defines the space that you're going to hold. When you march, you always start with your left foot. Hands. You stand with your shoulders back, your hands cupped as if holding a roll of quarters against the seam of your trousers, your thumb taut. Your feet has to be at a perfect 45-degree angle, and if the drill sergeant suspects it's not, he could kick his foot in the gap until he got you to the angle he desired. It's part of that breaking down process. If you lock your knees, you pass out. I think it's wrong of civilians to think of us who are military folks as closed-minded. Our eyes, when you fall in, are in that position of attention, and they're locked on the horizon, but we truly can see everything from the corners of our eyes. We have this active peripheral vision, and often someone in the military, when they're challenged head-on by obstacles, they will figure out a way to work around it. What I saw is how I fit into this line, stretching from horizon to horizon, the constant awareness of the Marine next to me. Unless you're a squad leader, then you got to be up at the front, and formations are always determined by height. And I was usually always at the front. In this metaphorical line, there stands the very first Marines who were born during the American Revolution in a tavern. And next to them are the heroes like Gunnery Sergeant John Baslone and General Chesty Puller, as well as my aforementioned heroes who I just talked about. And along with those who came after me, my tia Michaela and my cousin Vincent, who served in the last Gulf Wars. This line, in some ways, is more familiar to me than my own family is. But for me, military life truly started at a very pivotal age when I was 13 years old. Yes, I'm one of those people who graduated from high school when I was 17. I turned 18 while I was in the Marines, right on the side of Mount Motherfucker, having a piece of chocolate pound cake as my birthday cake. But back in 1987, prior to going to Kenyon High School, I'd gotten a letter about attending the junior ROTC summer camp at Camp Roberts. For 2 weeks, I got to live out this fantasy that had been growing in my head from watching G.I. Joe cartoons on TV to the tales my Gil Fernando told me about his jungle warfare training in Panama and eating monkey meat. Plus, how cool would I be in high school if I got to walk around in that baby blue Air Force uniform? Yeah, John Hughes never made a movie about that kid. Honestly, I've never done anything to look cool. As Wesley Snipes says in his movie Blade, I'm one of those some motherfuckers who always want to ski uphill. That pretty much sums me up along with Dominic Taylor's question that has been driving this so far. The 2 weeks that we got to play was primarily cleaning barracks older than our grandparents in what was called field day, and that pretty much defined the hottest days of our summer camp. We were indoctrinated in the drill, and we got to sing jodies as we marched through the dusty hills of Camp Roberts, as reservist tank crews would drive past us and roll their eyes at us wannabes. It was the first time I could remember getting hay fever, but I never suspected I had allergies. We got Air Force history classes too, but that was the marathon of trying to fight from falling asleep in the comforting cool breeze of the air conditioning. Every time you donked your head on your desk or you snored, someone tapped you on your shoulder and you had to go stand at the back of the classroom. I remember leaning against the guy because there was so many of us all against the back wall of this damn classroom. But this is also where I learned that I can sleep standing up. At 13, I still had that tension of belonging, but also wanting to be a member of a club when it came to my family. But at summer camp, I had access to this other feeling of being this airman basic cadet, of standing at attention in a formation of kids all my own age, and looking out into the desert heat of Central California, my clothes clinging to the curves of my body, embarrassingly, and these sweat rings coating them, my shirt and my trousers, and seeing 200 of us mimicking what we'd only seen on TV for White House special events. This solidified something inside of me. It was a pride and awareness of being macabre, but also enthralled by the beauty of the machine. I could easily give myself over to it. That long line wasn't about wars. Maybe it was about, being a little bit cool, shooting off machine guns and grenade launchers on the firing line. It was definitely about traveling to places like Thailand for 24-hour leave in Bangkok. But it was also about my buddies. And whether they were signed or not, summer camp was also the first place that I would form friendships that would last me my 4 years of high school. It's funny because I feel like the circle coming around again. My nanas hung my junior ROTC poster up on their mantles that they would replace with the next military one. They probably put those things up in hopes that they would put up my wedding picture one day, or maybe the pictures of the grandchildren they imagined that I would gift them. But it's also my mother's scowl that comes to mind as I pinned up those prints of the World War II Mustang or the Japanese Zero on my wall. My great-grandparents' generations were physically scarred by the traumas of the Mexican Revolution. Often when Mexican families talk about their ancestors, they all share how they rode with Pancho Villa or refused to get on their knees like Emiliano Zapata. But my great-grandfather was a fucking federale. So even when it was cool to not belong, actually to be a rebel, the branch of my masculine side chose to go with law and order. My panache for questioning and challenging if I belong was literally baked into me before I even popped out, and fed even further by my mom's mistrust of military men. My mother and father protested the draft lottery, actively sending brown and black men, often without a choice, with the ability to get into deferment because of the spurs in their feet. They stood before the ranks of LAPD sheriffs and saw the riot lines as waves of oppression directed at them. My mother would always tell me about Bobby, a suitor of hers, that when he came back from Nam, he was never the same. Drugs and PSD were their new battlefields of a war that they would never leave. She fought my decision to sign up to be a Marine. I wrote a whole play about that, and that's totally a different story. As a Chicano, I was raised to always see myself as being vigilant, not only for my ideals, but also standing up for them for others. I have marched and protested even prior to 45, but even as a Marine, my political views often got me labeled as a pinko, but I was graced that it never led me to not getting promoted. My Marine unit never made me feel like I wasn't one of them ever. In fact, I was selected twice to be the enlisted Marine of the Year. I don't protest my country. I protest when my country fails to live up to what it's supposed to be. I still think and breathe of myself as being a Marine, even though my service was only 7.5 years, but I felt like I've been serving since I was 13 years old. But when I saw Marines lining up to face protesters, it hurt me to my soul, even if the Scorpio side of me has always been prepared for that. Simultaneously, while I was attending Officer Candidate School in Quantico, Virginia, I still remained enlisted in the Marines. And while I was learning platoon-level combat tactics over in Quantico, I found myself for 2 summers at the Joint Readiness Training Center doing war games with the 75th Army Ranger Battalion near Shreveport, Louisiana. And there, we actually dealt with implementing crowd control techniques with soldiers playing civilians. All of us questioned the wisdom of this, but after the first Gulf War, military thinking already started to drift in that direction. And it was the mid-90s. I remember standing with a rifle, trying not to point it at fake civilians who were protesting our presence in an imaginary land. That there would be fake bombs that would go off, and one of them would fire a laser gun at us, and a monitor, an army officer, would come over and basically tell us which of us were injured or dead, and then we'd have to act like we were doing real first aid. Well, other Marines would form a line to keep fake rioting away while we triage. And as all this madness is going on, I thought to myself, what was the military thinking in having us there with machine guns, acting like policemen? Could I, as an officer, tell my men to do this? How did we learn from the Gulf but forgot the ultimate lesson of Vietnam? If you show up with rifles, tanks, and warships, you will shoot innocent people. I had a profound awakening that if this type of bullshit was presented to me as an order, I would not follow it. My lifelong dream, my road to what I believed that would be my ultimate success, I broke away from it. I didn't take the commission, and eventually I did lose those gold uniform bars I had purchased early on. I never got to have my moment of that song, "Love Lingers On Where We Belong," done for me. It's funny the things that we struggle to hold on to. And I want to see that line of Marines standing up for what is great about America and not what it feels like we're slipping into. I finally understand what my mom was trying to get me to wrap my head around. The war is always at home. Can you see how profound Dominic Taylor's question is? It's a hole I try to fill, but not only as an artist, but I've blown it up to this question of what does it take to be thought of as an American? Mexican veterans get sent back. Folks of Latino appearance who are fighting fires are pulled off the fire line by ICE agents. Are those showing at the court and doing what they've been instructed to do to become citizens are abused, arrested, deported? I worry for all of us. Even when we dress to look the part, when we sacrifice in order to take part, it's un-American that someone can make us feel we'll never belong. My heart burns with shame and disgust sits in my throat when I see ICE agents chasing young people while they're being escorted by Marines or National Guardsmen. We don't use the military and our police to punish people. It's supposed to be law enforcement, not brown people deportments. I've never questioned that. At my core, I was a Chicano who served as a Marine. Even with the crushing thought that as much as I wanted to disavow them, I also would still stand in formation with them, and that shit is the process. What is worse is that I'm also experiencing a different kind of powerlessness. I am now that protester that I've despised all my life. The one who posts on all the social medias, who brings up serving my country, of my history for standing up for what's right, trying to live up to Martin Sheen's quote, well, acting is what I do. Activism is what I do to stay alive. But I can't show up. I can't stand on the line like I once did. One morning after waking up and having my lips swell up on me, then my chin, I was rushing to drive myself to the ER as my neck started inflating into this triple chin. And I had gone down a road this past year of discovering I'm allergic to all grasses, pollens, bee products, rubber, cats, the chemicals in perfume. My allergist says I am essentially a house on fire, and all these things that are in nature or in my kitchen or on my clothing or certain fragrances are gasoline that essentially light me up for a whole week. That each attack has been escalating, ironically enough, since I was 13, and that I have to travel around with EpiPen and a Nepi spray so I can buy myself enough time to make it to an ER so I can live. I can't, in good conscience, show up and protest knowing that I may very well become an instant casualty. I remember when I first got tear gassed at boot camp, and how hard it was, but still I was able to shout out my name and give my social security number. And I don't know what would happen to me if I got tear gassed now. I can't be there, and it constantly hurts me to not be able to do anything to help, to show up, to be counted when it's needed, even if I wear a mask. I'm not able to be there to stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves, and believing I might die is not enough of an excuse for me. I can't hold the line. As the country is falling back, I can't fall in for the fear of falling out. And I have to stand on the side and hope that we all fall forward. My community needs me, and I'm not in the ranks. 3, lineage. I've definitely chosen to make my own line, but I know I didn't get here from nowhere. Can you imagine how much of Disneyland or the way that Walt Disney ran his company stems from his time in the Marine Corps? I've also learned that hate cannot defeat hate, but I'm still at a loss as to what can oppose it. But maybe what I'm reading now will help. Mr. Trump is the president, but Donald is not America. I will always reflect on how we all have this hole inside we need to feed. Dominic Taylor's question gave me an awareness like a shovel that my art is what I pour into that hole of am I loved? Do I belong? It becomes the art I create. And I don't lie in saying that it's something I wrestle with in terms of significant romantic relationships. It doesn't really fly on a Bumble profile. Too much, too soon. My angst is that it's not a hole in the ground, but a cosmic black hole, always consuming without letting anything flow in the other direction. Like my journey as an artist, it has never shown me love, and I have to read divining into the stars for a message that may or may not be there. My challenge with love and belonging is that it distinguishes me as the man, but it forever stains me as the child. Falling in is the opportunity to step into myself. I am standing here with my 13-year-old self in Central California at Junior ROTC summer camp, and the 24-year-old sergeant who stands in his last formation as the company, holding the company guide on. It's the flag that all units have for you civilians. Standing there for the last time in Terminal Island in Long Beach. But for me, the thing that I can easily envision that's the most emblematic is this time in my mind's eye when I was at Officer Candidate School. It was morning in Quantico, Virginia, and we're in formation. This is between my freshman and sophomore year when I went to COC College. The sun is edging a nautical east coast cloudy sky, and the air is heavy with cool mist that's going to boil up later on this August afternoon and turn into a 100-degree temperature with 110% humidity. But feeling that cool spray as it glided through our formation, and sometimes and the sun was starting to break, and the mist beaded on us, and it became these dewy jewels, and it gave us all like this shiny halo. And we were there in formation as a machine, but each of us was like a snowflake for ranks and ranks and ranks. Gracias.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. That was a journey. I think it's raining. That got loud, man. Sorry. I couldn't do anything about it.
I know, it worked with peace.
Thank you. It did, didn't it? I thought so too. Yeah, I thought you used it. You did.
Great high awareness of it.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming out. It's raining and wet. Let's eat some cookies and drink some wine before you head out. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Cooper. While we work together, I thank you all, and I admire you all, and I thank you all who came out. The next true story is Sunday, December 7th, and the theme is North Star. And Eve will be there. And I'll be here, and Christopher will be here. Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.